Good afternoon, everyone. It's Kat Bat from Digital Leopard, and today we've got with us Cemanthe McKenzie, a photographer. Cemanthe, could you tell us a little bit about your business?
So in a nutshell, I am a photographer. I have been a photographer for a very long time, but only just recently, so in the last couple of years, I've sort of set up as a commercial, official photographer, as a career, as a business. Originally, I had a different business, a limited company that I was doing something slightly different, and I was kind of doing photography on the side. But obviously with lockdown, and last year as well, I lost a client in that business in terms of he unfortunately passed away, and he was one of my favorite clients. And then I had a baby at the same time, and then lockdown happened, and you know, all of this kind of stuff was very life-changing. And I decided, what am I doing with my life? Why am I doing digital marketing when I really want to do photography? And
So hang on, have you just started doing photography in the lockdown?
Commercially, yes, sort of.
Oh,
About 2 years ago, I started it as a commercial thing. So I started going to networking events as a commercial, you know, as a photographer.
yeah.
But then I had a baby, and so I was off for like a year of not really doing anything. So I was doing my other business and sometimes doing photography. But it is really just sort of this year that I decided to sort of go towards photography. But it was during lockdown that I closed the other business completely. So I passed the clients to other agencies, and closed the Facebook page and everything, just closed the business and said, right, now I'm a photographer. So yeah, lockdown was kind of the kind of catalyst for everything kind of coming to fruition and kind of saying, I've had it. What am I doing with my life? You know, why am I doing something that I don't enjoy anymore when I love photography so much? And so that was it. I closed the other business completely, and passed the clients to other people, and just said, right, now I'm doing photography. So that's it. In lockdown.
It is unbelievable. I mean, most photographers have really suffered through the lockdown. As a videographer, it has not been easy. My projects got cancelled. It's been really tricky. I'm really, really shocked at your decision. It's great.
Yeah, I used lockdown because obviously I wasn't doing any photo shoots. So I used lockdown to do a lot of training stuff. So a lot of signed up for a lot of courses, learned to use my camera a bit better. Because before I was taking good pictures, but some of the things on my camera, I wasn't sure what they were for, how to use them. So I did a lot of courses and a lot of marketing, and I cleaned up my website, and I used the time to start from scratch, which was actually a blessing. You know, a lot of time you don't have that in business because you're so busy. You don't have time to do that website thing or that, you know, a design thing you want to do. And so I used lockdown to start from scratch, and edit all the websites and get everything going again. So good use of the time.
That's amazing. So you've been working for yourself for a while. What has pushed you initially to go into working for yourself? Because it's not an easy path.
Oh gosh, no. My limited company, I had that for 10 years. So my last sort of paid job as an employee was in 2009. And what pushed me into self-employment was the realization that I couldn't work for someone else. In the company that I was working in, I was the operations manager, and I was trying to do stuff, but the managing director was constantly saying, oh, don't do this, don't do that. And I just thought, actually, there can only be one managing director, and he is the boss at his business. So I need to set up my own business. So that's what I did. I set up my own business, and then I was the boss. And so then I could make all the decisions myself, and, you know, do the things that needed to be done. It was kind of just coming to the realize. I mean, I've been very entrepreneurial my whole life since I was a little girl, but this was the first sort of, in 2010 was the first time that I actually did something official with it, you know. And it was just, as I say, the realization that I was unemployable because I was such a hard worker, and it was never appreciated as much.
Yeah,
you know.
there are a lot of politics. It never sat well with me. It's just like you kind of have to tiptoe around people, make sure that you don't, you know, like, no egos are ever harmed and stuff. And it doesn't sit well with me either. I kind of like to find an efficient way to do something and just do it.
Exactly. And there's no flexibility if you're employed. You know, you can bring ideas to the table, but they don't always get used, or you know, I had already kind of gone as far as I could. You know, I was operations manager. There was no sort of room for growth. at that stage, and the two directors were fighting with each other all the time. And one day I just thought, what am I doing? I was doing sort of business stuff on the side, so I was doing websites and stuff like that, and then eventually I was doing so many websites that it was the same as I was earning as an employee. So that financially gave me the flexibility to be able to say, you know, I'm going to resign, and I still had enough income coming in, and that was 10 years ago. So it's just crazy how the time goes.
Brilliant. That sounds really good.
Thanks.
So I understand that you've loved being your own boss, but have there been any difficulties that you faced in those 10 years? What's been the biggest obstacle?
People not paying, I think.
Gosh, yeah.
Yeah. We've had some very big losses. So we had a client that didn't pay. Now, normally with the company that I had, you always get paid in advance. But because at the same time I had been scammed through my bank, and the scammer had managed to get into my bank account and taken about £18,000 out of my bank account, which was all my money for VAT and tax and to pay my team and pay for my wedding and all of that kind of stuff. So it was like a lot of money. And at the time, so my brain was on that and I wasn't focusing on the client, but we were still doing work for the client. So I didn't really, because my bank account was essentially blocked, because the bank blocked it, I couldn't see whether he was paying or not. And so he took the opportunity to not pay us for 3 months, which I then only realized afterwards. Like, he made little payments here and there, but when my accountant did a review of everything after the bank account was opened again, we realized that actually he was £4,000 underpaid. And so when I challenged him for the money, he closed his company down. And it turned out that he actually owed HMRC something like £6,000 for unpaid tax. And he owed a lot of people a lot of money. So instead of paying those people, he decided to just close the company so that he would not be responsible for the payments. So we lost about £4,000. And at that time, that was quite a lot of money to lose.
No, it is a lot of money at any time. And no, I feel you. I've been in a similar situation where the client didn't pay. It was similar. It was about £4,000, but it's just like, in the end they paid, but it's just so stressful having to chase them, doing, all this work. It's just not great.
Yeah. No, it was very unfortunate circumstances, and I will be forever cross with him that he didn't pay us.
Yeah.
But yeah, just similar things like that. Those are probably the main issues that we've had, with people not paying. Most of the time people have paid us, but that was a very big instance where.
What have you learned from it? What are you doing differently after that incident?
Well, that particular time, there wasn't really anything to do different because we were already taking payments in advance. It was just that obviously my attention was not on that. It was on the situation with the bank and trying to sort out getting my money back from the bank. So that took quite a lot of work. But I think the thing that carried us through that is the lesson in itself. So, with most businesses, if they lose £4,000, that will put quite a dent in their income. But with me, one of the biggest things that I could advise other business people, and if I was talking to someone who was starting out, this is what I would say to them. I always save 10%. I mean, at the time I was saving 20% of every invoice towards tax and 20% of every invoice towards VAT. So when I did my tax return and my VAT return, I always had enough money, and then I always got money back because obviously I always saved more than I needed. And I'm a big saver. I save all the time. And to be honest with you, that has got me through all of those kind of situations where people haven't paid or they've disappeared or,
coronavirus.
Exactly. Or we've had no clients or whatever the case might be. So I always say to people, just save, even 10% of every invoice, just put it in a savings account for a rainy day. I mean, that's what got us through that situation.
It's the same. I think I aim to have 3 months of sort of expenses saved up so that we can keep going for 3 months if anything happens.
Yeah, that's really good. And that is the advice that I've received as well from other people like financial advisors and stuff. At least try and save 3 months of salary, which before I had a baby, that's what I had. I had a year's worth of salary, but since having a baby, I do not have that kind of savings anymore. They are expensive. And also you don't get any help and stuff like that if you're on maternity leave and you have savings. You have to use your savings before you get help. So I had to kind of use all my savings, and obviously I didn't have as much income because I was on maternity leave. So it was
That is so unfair. That's horrible.
yeah, that happens. That happens. So yeah, so I don't have as much savings as I used to, but I'm kind of working back now at kind of generating the savings again, because, you know, I think, I mean, yeah, children are expensive, but the first thing I did when I found out I was pregnant was open a bank account for him, for the baby. And so I've been putting money in every month. So when he turns 18, he will have a really good, you know, savings account, because nothing else matters as much as that. When people say, what should we buy him for his birthday? I just say, just give him money, because that's going to, in the future, he's not going to have the plastic toys and stuff that you buy now. He's going to have the money, and that's going to be far better for him in the long run. You know, money isn't everything, but it certainly can help.
We need it. We need it. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Totally.
It's just what it is. Brilliant. So I was actually going to ask you for advice for the entrepreneurs, but you already gave a really good piece of advice.
Save money. Just save for rainy days. Always assume that something bad is going to happen and that you will need the money. And now, to be honest, like I see it in my industry, there's a lot of photographers who are in a lot of trouble because they didn't save. And now brides are asking for refunds, and, you know, and everybody's having a hard time. And a lot of photographers I've seen have, you know, they've made a lot of money in the good days. And I just think, where has it all gone? Because they don't have any savings now, because they didn't save money when times were good. And so some of them have had to close their business, stuff like that, and that shouldn't be happening. This, you know, it's 6 months. So now I can say to people, you know, always assume that there's going to be a pandemic and that you will need the money. save for the next one, because they will get more and more as we go now, you know. So it's better to save.
There is always something. This is just what happens with business. There is always some problem that you need to solve, and it's okay as long as you are prepared for it and you can solve it.
Always prepare for the worst and hope for the best. You know.
Brilliant. Is there any business book that has particularly influenced you in your career?
Probably one of the very first business books I read, because my previous business to this one was coaching, and I read that book. And the name of it has just gone straight out of my head. Oh no, it's just literally gone straight out my head. I think it was possibly How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Okay.
Maybe it was that one, but I can't even know. Oh, sorry, it's just gone totally out of my head. I can see the cover in my head, but it's just gone totally out of my head. But it's one of those kind of coaching books that I read. It's quite possibly that it was that one.
So hang on, this is your third business. You've done coaching, then you've done digital marketing, and now you are doing photography.
Yes, all sort of linked to each other.
Yeah, but that's really cool. That's a proper amazing journey.
It was, yeah, because I did the coaching, and then people started saying, can you do it for me? Because they didn't want to do it themselves. So I said, okay, I'll do it for you. And then this is how much it's going to be. And then I started moving into more on, you know, helping people do stuff. And then it was kind of like, can you help me with my Facebook? Can you help me with my emails? Okay, I can do that. And so it became digital marketing. And then doing digital marketing, people like, oh, you've trained me on how to use LinkedIn. Can you take my picture as well? So like, okay, I'll take your picture. And so now I'm just like, okay, now I'm just going to take your picture. And now somebody else can help you with LinkedIn. But yeah, so it's kind of progressed, you know, it's kind of progressed. But to be honest with you, photography is my love. It's my first passion. It's the thing I've always wanted to do ever since I was little. It's the only thing I've ever wanted to do. You know, like some people, they want to be doctors or lawyers or whatever. I wanted to be a photographer. And so now finally, 40 years later, I'm a photographer.
You know what? There was a time where I loved photography and I thought about it, but it was so difficult to get into in terms of, you know, having the money to invest in the equipment and stuff. And video is not cheaper, but at that stage, I had the previous business as well, so I had the money to invest. So it made it much easier. And yeah, photography
I think it's one of the few industries that has the most outlay at the beginning, doesn't it? Because you know, it's not like being a doctor where you get hospitals who buy your x-ray equipment and stuff like that. As a photographer, you generally have no overheads unless you have a studio, but it's the one business where you have no overheads, but you know, the price of cameras and stuff, and you have to keep updating as well, because cameras get old, and stuff breaks and, you know, it doesn't last forever anymore. So you have to keep buying new stuff, and it is the most expensive stuff you can probably buy.
And come on, we all love toys. I mean, I'm sure you've got a lot of toys.
I have a lot of cameras. I'm not going to lie. I like a lot of cameras, but I'm very wary of how I spend my money. I'm very frugal, and I will tend to buy really old cameras, but in charity shops. So I'll go into like flea markets or charity shops, and I buy secondhand old cameras. Like I've got a camera from 1955 that I found in a sort of antiques market, but it was like 10 quid, but it still takes photos. It takes beautiful, big sort of square format photos. You can still get film for it, although it's very hard to get film for it. So I have lots of cameras from my journey, and I see cameras that are so beautiful in charity shops, and then I buy them. So collectively, maybe yes. But I refrain from buying too many toys, because I have lots of stuff, but it's kind of like, you know, I have to be very careful. I save rather than
no, that's true.
money.
That's true.
I will use my camera until my camera is screaming for attention, and then I will, like just now, my camera has stopped sort of being able to handle very low light, my old camera. So I have two cameras that I use, and it's a Nikon D7100 or something, and it's really out of date now, but it doesn't handle low light. I've done a couple of shoots recently, wasn't very dark, and it's just not handled it at all. So now I'm thinking, okay, now it's time to upgrade. You know, I wait until something falls apart, and then it's same with my clothes, everything. I wait till something falls apart, and if I can't fix it, then I buy a new one. If I can fix it, then I will fix it.
That's a good approach. I'm sure I could do without some of the equipment that I've got, but it's just too tempting.
Like I can't help it. Like, and nowadays photography equipment is not as expensive as it used to be. So, you know, like backdrops, and I've got some backdrops that I've bought recently that weren't too expensive, and I love them. And you get light stands and, you know, boxes and flashes and stuff are not as expensive. The cameras are very expensive, but the things like the flash and the light boxes and stuff, they're not as expensive as they used to be. And so I have a lot of that kind of stuff that I don't really need.
Fair enough, we all do.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Cemanthe. Thank you so much for coming on today. It's been great speaking to you.
Welcome, my pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment and share. And whatever you do, don't forget to subscribe to our channel.